Live via satellite, it's Ali Ashmead, live from the Star Trek cruise.
Not really. It's podcast magic, and this was recorded earlier.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk.
Spock.
Your move, Captain. Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on?
I'm James Kirk. These people are my friends and my shipmates. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that?
James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
Oh, the bonehead ideas.
Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Ali Ashmead.
And 'twas the night before the Star Trek cruise.
I can't sleep. I've got visions of sugar plums dancing in my head. Yeah, so by the time this airs, I will be on the ship.
Hell yeah.
And getting ready to set sail. So I'm so excited.
If you're going to be on the ship, look for Ali. Say hi.
Yeah, definitely. I have a Star Trek shirt for every fucking day. Mm-hmm. So I've got a t-shirt for every day. Something weird. By then, hopefully I've packed and I haven't forgot anything. If I am, it's too fucking late. So yeah, I'm excited. I don't even know what to expect. This is my first Star Trek themed cruise. So we are going to 3 different ports: Cabo San Lucas, Puerto Vallarta, and what was the other one? Mazatlan.
That sounds so much fun.
Like
you're
night.
You're going to have a blast.
I think so. It's just like every night there's a themed party. But then during the day, there's activities like meeting the stars and getting autograph signings. But then they also have special events for the stars, like tequila tasting with not a visitor and somebody else, those kinds of things. So we can sign up for those as well. So it's just going to be so much fun. And at some point, I need to make sure I do take time for downtime, because sometimes peopling is really exhausting. So I just got to make sure I
totally get that. It'd be cool. And maybe you and I need to start our own Star Trek cruise. Mm-hmm. There should be like Star Trek themed excursions, right? Mm-hmm. Like you get off at this island and you get to go fight a Gorn or something.
Somebody gonna get hurt.
Oh no, you sign a waiver for that shit.
Oh yeah.
Pay for some insurance. Yeah.
Yep. You fight a Gorn, or you go to the one where they see Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, yes.
Whatever you think
shore
of
leave,
shore leave.
Well, hopefully they don't put you on a starship and send you to a planet where you might be mistaken for a war target. Let's talk about Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 24, A Taste of Armageddon.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Deflectors, full intensity.
Mr. Sulu, yes, get anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed.
Collision course, visual contact.
Anything to work?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
The Enterprise is on a diplomatic mission to Star Cluster NGC 321. Eminiar 7 is the primary planet in this system. We left a message on their voicemail, and we're just waiting for a call back. This is another one of those episodes where we get a civilian on the ship who's in charge of the mission. And this time it's Ambassador Fox. And that signaled right away that like his role is going to be to just annoy the fuck out of Kirk in some way, like in Galileo 7, remember? When we had the guy on the bridge. Uhura gets a call back, code 710, which basically means like, stay the fuck away. And sure enough, Fox's purpose becomes clear. He orders Kirk to ignore that message because the Federation has lost a lot of lives in this area of space. So they desperately needed a treaty port here. Of course, Fox essentially has command over this operation. How about back the fuck off then and stop sending ships into this area of space if you aren't welcome here?
Right. But we're spreading freedom. No, I'm kidding. But that's the idea.
Right.
we do. But yeah, I agree.
Fox makes it clear this is a direct order and leaves the bridge. And we're taken to the theme by Kirk calling yellow alert, shields up, weapons ready. The Enterprise is now in orbit of the planet Ensnares 7, which Spock reports as having an advanced spacefaring civilization, but they haven't left their solar system despite having achieved space travel. 50 years ago, the USS Valiant was here and failed to return. It was listed as lost, but reported that the planet was at war with a neighbor. So Fox bursts onto the bridge, and he's pissed off that Kirk is going to beam down without him. But Kirk informs him, like, we have to make sure it's safe first before you can go down. And Spock mentions that the inhabitants scanned the Enterprise when they assumed orbit. So they know we're here, but they're not showing any signs of hostility. I think this is the first time we hear phaser number 1. This is essentially like the type 1 phaser. This is the little garage door opener one. That's like small, handheld. And they kind of like snapped into the top of the type 2 phaser guns. It was that little, almost an ovally egg type shape thing on top of it. Kirk and company depart the bridge, leaving Scotty in command and also to deal with Fox. This planet exterior shot that comes up next is like, it was like something out of Walt Disney's Epcot. Like if this is I don't know if this is the remastered footage or what, but it looked very much like a Disney animator's view of the future to me, like from that era.
Like a cartoon?
Yeah. There was like the Jetsons, right? It was like big futuristic buildings and monorails going by.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I thought you meant from the orbit, but you mean once they get down there, it does look like, yeah. I personally love mentioning that we see another Asian woman, and this is Yeoman Tamura, which I love as diverse as they could possibly get in the late 60s, but it's really cool to see another Asian woman on the away team.
So we see a woman along with 2 men in some ridiculous hats come around the corner.
I think I literally wrote down they look like ill-fitting condoms because that's what their heads look like.
Oh, gosh.
So once they beam down, they're met by Maya 3. She's at the division of control it's a seat of the Eminian Union, something like that.
Yep.
And this role is played by Barbara Babcock, which I know you remember her from like Hill Street Blues.
Oh yeah.
And so she's just so gorgeous. But yes, this is her. And her security offers the ill-fitting condom heads. And Kirk's eyes are about to pop out of his head when he sees her.
We get the familiar strains of romantic string music, the music swells up, indicating the swelling happening in Kirk's trousers. And this is also confirmed visually by the soft focus lens that they've used to shoot her close-ups.
She escorts them to the division control, and she says, look, we warned you not to come here. Yep. And he says, well, we had orders to come. And he asks, why did you ask us to stay away? And she's like, it's for you. It was for your own safety. Even though you might not see any danger, it does exist. And since they're there, though, it would be morally incorrect not to extend hospitality. So she's like, all right, come on in.
So she leads him to the city council chambers. And Kirk explains that they're on a mission to establish diplomatic relations. But Anon 7, who's the leader, I guess, says that's impossible due to the war. And Kirk and Spock are like, what war? This planet is, you're a highly advanced species. You're very, very peaceful. We scanned the whole planet. There's no evidence of war. And Anon explains, we've been at war for 500 years and we have 1 to 3 million dead each year due to direct attack by the enemy.
Yep. And then just then they see something they're in kind of like a war room, right. And they see something on the map that lights up as if there was an explosion indicator. Apparently there was a direct hit right in the city, but Kirk is like, we didn't hear anything, no explosions, there's no radiation, nothing that would suggest, a bomb hit.
The light flashes on the map, and Maya's reaction is like sadness. She's like, damn, a direct hit.
Yeah.
They sunk my battleship.
Battleship, a game of strategy from Milton Bradley.
Tamula takes some tricorder readings, but there's nothing there either. So Kirk asks Maya, like, what weapons are being used? And she said that was fusion bombs detonated above the target. But when Kirk calls up Scotty's like, sensors are clear, man. There's nothing unusual. Just then, another light goes off on the screen. And Anan is like, well, we tried to warn you. And another council member is like, just like it happened 500 years ago. So clearly they're talking about the Valiant when they were lost here 500 years ago. Anan requests a security detachment and comes out of the computer room and tells Kirk it was a vicious attack, extremely destructive. Defenses are getting better, but the casualties are still high. And Kirk's like, what the fuck are you talking about, man?
He's like, his ship did scans. We don't see shit. He's like, what kind of game are you playing at? And Anan's like, this is not a game. He orders a counterattack. And then Spock, he's back to being smart again. He realizes that they fight their wars with computers. And he says, completely computers. And Anan says, well, of course. As if they're supposed to know that. Yeah, like that's how all wars are fought. But Kirk's like, well, computers don't kill 500,000 people. Anan says that the deaths have been registered and that people have 24 hours to report to the disintegration machines.
And Anan explains, like, this is some sophisticated solution to their prolonged war. Like, this way, when Joe reports to the chamber, it's not like his whole apartment building was destroyed, right? Somebody else can just move into his old apartment now. No big deal. He's dead. Rather than, like, I don't know, find a way to end the war.
Right. Stop walking willingly to death.
Yeah.
I don't even know that they ever made it clear what they were fighting over.
Right. No. He says he lost his wife in the last attack. People die, but the culture lives on. And Kirk is still shocked. He's like, you mean to tell me your people just line up and walk into these death camp machines all when they're told to? And Anan says they have a high consciousness of duty. Well, if that's what duty means, I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, that's bullshit, and I wouldn't do it.
Right.
There's no way. And then Anan says that when the Enterprise entered orbit, it became a legitimate target too, and it has also been destroyed by a tri-cobalt satellite explosion.
Yeah.
So just like the victims on the surface, like Kirk and his crew, they've got like all of his crew, not just the people up in the Enterprise have 24 hours to report to the disintegration chamber. And Kirk and the rest of the landing party are kind of put under guard and, to make sure that they comply.
Kirk and the away team maybe that's another good band name. Kirk and the away team.
The away team.
I should be writing these all down.
Kirk and the away team. What is it? GMOs.
Khan and the GMOs. Yeah. Kirk and the away team are in a holding room of some sort, and Kirk is like pacing while we hear the captain's log. The doors open and Maya 3 and her security guard come in, and she's like, I was sent to see if you need anything. And Kirk's like, yeah, I need that Anan guy to get in here so I can talk to him. Like, I'm going to lose my shit.
She's like, anything else but that.
Yeah. And it turns out Maya is also a casualty. And she explains to Kirk that, like, she feels this is the best way because if she refused to be disintegrated, then others would too. And then, like, the Vendicar would be forced to launch real weapons, and that would be even worse.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, don't you see our way is better? And Kirk's like, no, the better way is no war at all. What is wrong with you people?
Exactly. And I swear I've seen this premise for this show on another show, and I cannot for the life of me remember which show it was, but it was some group traveling to another universe or whatever, and they encounter these people that are having a war that is all virtual. But I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, I would be interested to know what that is.
It might be Stargate, but I'll have to search to see which which one it is, but yeah.
So then Maya says that line that I've been fighting against my entire adult life, which is she's like, well, this is how we've done it for the last 500 years. Like just because we've always done it this way does not mean it's the right way or the best way or the most efficient way or the most humane way. Like erase that kind of thinking from your brain right now.
Yep. Back on the Enterprise, McCoy is starting to get impatient with Scotty. He's like, we should have heard something by now.
This is the role he plays over and over again. McCoy is always the one up there. I don't think we're doing enough about the problem.
Right. And he's always either hounding whoever's up there.
Whoever's in charge.
He's like, why aren't you doing anything? You're not doing enough. But then if he were to take over, he wouldn't want to have to make the decisions that Scotty's going to have to make. Scotty said he couldn't get a hold of him, but then Uhura says there's a message from the captain. And this is Eminian trickery. Anon 7 is using some kind of voice modulator to sound like Kirk. And he tells the crew, that the Eminians have extended an invitation to everyone on the ship to come ashore. And I'm so glad. I love Scotty in this episode. He's like, he's got balls. He's not easily fooled. Scotty just thinks, this doesn't sound right. And he's like, okay. But he agrees and he hangs up. But then he goes straight over to the console and he has that message analyzed. And he's like, and asks the computer, is this the real voice?
Captain? Yeah.
And the computer says,
negative. A close copy.
A voice duplicator?
98% probability.
But it is not his voice.
It is a copy. Back on the service, Kirk and Spock are plotting, and Spock says that limited telepathic abilities are inherent in Vulcanians. We're still Vulcanians this far into the series. I don't remember that.
Yeah, and I don't remember the telepathic. Is that something new?
Outside of the mind meld, but that was with physical contact. That was not through the air. Is
what he's talking about was just something.
This bit here where Spock mind melds through the wall, it reminded me of a very clear, seminal teenage memory of a Star Trek game that I played. And I can't remember which one it was. I think it might have been the 25th anniversary or something. This was back PC DOS days, right? Where you had to do that. And so I'm thinking where he had to mind meld a guy through the wall and get him to work the controls on something. God, I want to play that game again. I wonder if it's still available on Steam.
Probably.
I can find it.
Legacy game, probably.
Anyway, these telepathic abilities might work. They might not. But sure enough, the guard outside starts kind of blinking, he's...
Something's accessing his brain.
Yeah. And eventually we see he uses the little magnet to open the door. And Kirk and Spock are on the other side and they jump him. Double karate chop to the neck here.
He gets them on both sides.
He's on one side and then the other.
So their plan is basically to get their communicators back and then contact the ship. Kirk tells Spock, we need more weapons. I'll try to take it easy, but if I'm forced to kill, I'll do it.
Down the hallway, they discover one of these disintegration chambers. This thing kind of reminded me as the set piece from the Return of the Archons, except that, remember, in the Archons, there was that clear cylinder that they stood in where the operator stood.
Yeah.
And then the door kind of it was a rounded door that slid closed.
It could very well be reuse or set reuse.
Yeah. Anyway, this cylindrical thing is where the disintegratee goes to be disintegrated. And Spock points out there's only one way in and no way out.
Black Flag Roach Motel. Roaches check in, but they don't check out.
Yeah. They're sneaking down the hallway when they bump into Maya, who is reporting for her disintegration. And Kirk grabs her arm and he's like, oh, no, you're not. We haven't even fucked yet.
Oh, my.
It's true. It's true. I can't let a pretty little thing like you go in there.
Right? Spock very casually walks down the hall to the guard overseeing these disintegrations.
I died on this one.
This is the best Spock right here. He pulls that classic, your shoelace is untied bit. He says, sir, there's a multi-legged creature crawling on your shoulder. And then when he goes to look, Spock neck pinches him and takes his gun.
They show a little shot of Kirk smirking.
Yep.
When he does that, but then he knocks the guard out and then he walks away or backs away from the machine. And there's another guard there and other people. I guess they're just waiting to be disintegrated. So then they walk away and then they shoot it from a distance to destroy the station.
Back in the city council, Mayor Anand gets a call from the police that their Federation prisoners have escaped and destroyed one of the disintegration stations. So he sends out like a search detail after them and tells them basically like, look, they're armed. So if you have to kill them, you have to kill them. And between all of this, we get kind of cuts in and out to the disintegration chamber, basically on fire now. And people are like scattering around the hallways. That's all I want to be. Just let me be an extra running around the hallway.
I just want to be an extra. Yeah.
And Anand also orders their actual real planetary weapons to lock onto the Enterprise. And in 10 seconds, fire, destroy it. Scotty records our log coming out of this commercial. And when the red flashy light of doom on the forward console starts blinking, the ship is banged around a little bit, but not enough to cause the jerk. And Scotty's like, they're taking pot shots at us. And DePaul says that it's a sonic vibrations, decibels 18 to the 12th power, which is a lot of decibels.
Okay.
You know, I'm so glad I learned how to do that exponential bullshit when I was in school, because I sure have used it in my life. No, I have not.
I was going to say, I don't know that I have, but good for you.
So Scotty and McCoy are discussing like what to do next. Got to find the captain. Can't fire phasers with the screens up. Can't lower the screens with the planet shooting at them. And just as Scotty is suggesting photon torpedoes, Fox arrives on the bridge just in time to put a stop to all the Wild West shoot 'em up nonsense.
He's like, asshole. Fox is like, hey, no shooting at the planet. Coy says that they're holding the captain, but Fox is like, you don't have any proof of that. And Scotty's like, well, I'm responsible for the safety of the ship. And Fox he does not give a shit about that at all. He says his diplomatic mission is more important than the Enterprise. And he's like pretty much ignoring Scotty and McCoy.
So like Fox's deal is like, I'm the diplomat, so my orders rank, and that's that. And Scotty, man, Scotty in this scene was my favorite character for such a... Scotty was... I loved him so much.
In this entire episode, because he had so much balls since, he had ball.
He was one of my favorite characters from like the original series movies. Mm-hmm. Like that's where I really think because I started with TNG and then I probably went back to the movies before I went back to the original series. I don't remember, but Scotty is like, he gets some great lines here. He's like, diplomats. The best diplomat I know is a fully activated phaser bank.
And he's not wrong, because Fox's plan is to just call down to the planet himself to talk to the leader.
So back on the planet, Kirk and the away team plus Maya return to their holding room. Kirk says because that's the last place anybody'd look for them.
It's actually pretty smart.
Yeah.
I thought about that. I'm like, he's right.
Yeah, because they'll check everything else and then eventually maybe circle back there. But
but they
buys them the most time.
Yeah. And Maya is like, it's almost time. You have to let me go and die. And he's like, why are you so anxious to die? And she's like, it's my duty.
Yeah. If this is duty, I'm not a fan. Not interested. No thanks.
But if I doubt they even know after 500 years what real war is and what they're even fighting about. And they are so used to this way of life that it's probably just,
So Spock reports that their raid was pretty successful. They gathered 4 disruptor guns, a couple of male outfits, and one of their communication devices, which suspiciously flips open just like the StarTAC that they all use.
Yeah, but it's not theirs. It's the Iminarians.
Yeah, but I smell a patent violation.
Yeah. Well, Spock is going to have to modify it in order to contact the Enterprise. So then Kirk is like, okay, Maya, give me the layout of the building. I got to get to the war room.
She refuses, but he's like, listen, I'm trying to save your life and ours too. And like all of those other countless people that are being killed for no good reason. Or do you enjoy this war?
Yeah.
And she finally kind of relents. Back in the council chambers, Anon is explaining their problem. They couldn't destroy the Earth ship. They lost one of their disintegration chambers, and they're way behind on their quota.
Of dead people.
Then the phone rings, and it's Ambassador Fox, and Anon asks, what is the greater morality, open honesty or a deception which may save our lives? So he's trying to decide how to answer this call, and he chooses deception. He tells Fox, like, this has all been a big misunderstanding. We are at war. An error in our sensors indicated that your ship was about to attack us. So
we fired on you. We didn't mean to.
Yeah, oops,
sorry about that.
Sorry. And he gave his word that Kirk and the away team are safe. And fucking Fox, man, he shoots a smug look down at Scotty and says, like, see, I thought perhaps it was all a mistake.
For an ambassador, he's shit at his job.
Yeah.
You know? You should, one of the skills of an ambassador is to be able to fucking tell when you're being lied to.
Right.
And he's terrible.
Anon says they'll make arrangements to bring Fox down, but he hits the mute button and tells his lackey, as soon as the Enterprise shields are down, fire. So Fox is still super smug as he ties off the conversation. He says, diplomacy should be left to the diplomats, and tells Scotty to return to peaceful status, but Scotty refuses. And Fox is rip shit. Like, clearly this is a guy that's not used to being told no.
Yeah.
Even McCoy gets in on it. He's like, these people have faked the captain's voice and shot at us, and you just want us to act like everything's all fine now? And Fox is like,
You will respect my authority!
And he's like, he's going to have Scotty, he's like, I'm going to have you sent to a court-martial or a penal colony for insubordination. And I love Scotty's fire. He's not going to lower his defenses until he knows what's happened to the captain. So fuck you.
I read something about this episode that the originally it was meant that Scotty was going to acquiesce at that point. But the way this came about was based on an actual real life war experience by Jimmy Doohan, where his CO gave him an order and he said no.
Good for him.
So like that little piece of this story is like based in some fact.
Wow. So Scotty was a badass in real life.
Scotty was a badass in real life. The finger that he always hides. Did we talk about this?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So Scotty is missing a finger on one hand because he got shot at in the war and lost his finger. And so if you watch closely to Scotty, you'll notice that he always has either his hand curled or hidden away. Like he went to a big effort not to show it on screen. He did not want people to see it.
Cool. I did not know that.
Yeah. Fox storms off the bridge, licking his wounds a bit. And McCoy's like, well, you've really done it now. And Scotty says, aye, the haggis is in the fire for sure.
He's so Scottish.
But I'll not lower my defenses on the word of that mealy-mouthed gentleman down below. Not until I know what happened to the captain. So back on the planet, Anon is pouring out a stiff drink when Kirk quietly enters the room, but Anon hears him and invites him for a drink. He says he believes his first impression of Kirk was right. He's a barbarian. And he says, like, we all are in our own way. He says that's part of their shared heritage. Is this an Earth colony? And I feel like I've been asking that question a lot lately.
I know. Not that I know of.
So what shared heritage other than like the evolutionary whatever? Like,
but they're humanoid because Earth hasn't been in this quadrant a lot, and when they have, they've not come back.
So Kirk pours out a drink, and as he turns his back, Anon presses a concealed button on the side of the table.
I swear, there's so much trickery from Anon.
But it's like that, little button on the underneath side of the bank counter.
Yep,
the
police have been violently called.
Kirk says, you don't seem to realize the risk you're taking. We don't make war with computers and herd the casualties into suicide stations. We make the real thing, councilman. I could destroy this planet. Look, like that's a thing to be proud of, that we do war the real way.
Yeah, like here they are arguing semantics. Like my way of war is better than yours.
Right.
One, they both end in casualties, whether they die screaming or they walk into a chamber. There's just less destruction of the actual, structures. It kind of all ends up the same.
Like, I don't know if this was just trying to be threatening, right? But I didn't like the approach at all. Here's what he should have said. He should have said, we don't make war with computers. In fact, we try not to make war at all if it can be avoided. Like, let us help you stop all of this.
Yep.
Kirk demands to know where their communicators are, and Anon finally tells him, like, they're in the war room down the hall to the left. And Kirk almost walks out to get them, but then he stops at the door and he turns and he's like, he does that little come here thing with his finger. And he's like,
you go first.
Yeah.
Good, a lot of good it does him because they're still outside the door waiting for him and they overpower him. Like 2 or 3 of them. He puts up a really good fight, but they hit him on the head. And then they take him to the council room.
Yeah. And Anon says, is he alive? A pity. A man like that, so he was alive. A man like that would have preferred to die fighting. And that's a trope we see that comes back around when we talk about like Klingons and glory and honor and like, today is a good day to die. Like we want to die in battle for some reason. Fox and a previously unknown person beam down into the courtyard. And Anon meets them there, escorts them inside the building, and then tells them they've been recorded as casualties and are being taken to their deaths.
I died laughing at his face. I was like, it was worth it. The look on the Ambassador Fox's face was worth it. And then Anon just walks away. I'm sorry, you're going to die.
Yep. Meanwhile, Spock's done some tweaking to the communicator, and he gets it through to the Enterprise and shares the exposition with Scotty so that he's all caught up. Spock orders the Enterprise to move to a maximum orbit and ready phasers. It was at this point I noticed that the security officers are out of their uniforms now and are wearing the jumpsuits of the people on the planet, complete with those weird condom hats.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're posing because they did steal a couple of uniforms. They're posing as the guard with the condom hats. And so they know now that the ambassador is down there and he's about to go into the chamber. So they attempt a rescue.
Spock leaves Yo Woman Tamula in charge to watch over Maya while he goes to find the captain. And he tells her, knock her down and sit on her if you have to.
He does show the humor he shows. It's so good. It's funny. He's like, yeah, don't let her out of your sight no matter what. And they managed to save the ambassador. And in the result, they destroy the disintegration 11. So this is 2 that they've destroyed so far. But then, and finally, Fox is like, okay, you were right. I was wrong about the situation. But he offers to help. And Spock's like, yeah, well, we need all the help we can get.
Anon is still trying to explain to Kirk, like, this is the way we've always done it, and it works just fine. And there's an argument here that I don't think they explore well enough, right? This is some, like, prime directive shit again right here.
Yeah.
Anon says, if your people don't report to our disintegration chambers, it's a violation of an agreement that dates back 500 years. And Kirk's like, cool, we didn't sign that agreement, so the contract doesn't apply to me.
Right.
And yet they've interfered with a civilization's normal progression, right? So many future episodes point to an expectation that, like, when they're on a planet, they have to follow those laws. Remember when Wesley fell into the flower?
Oh, yeah.
The flower thing, and they were going to put him to death?
No, Wes!
No! It's forbidden to disturb new plants!
Oh, no. Oh, please, no.
It's okay. I'm fine.
Like, you might have a driver's license issued in Colorado, but if you drive to Texas, you have to follow Texas's laws.
Right.
So I don't think they explored that enough.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because they just were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Trying to, broker peace and treaties and stuff and be diplomatic. And he probably shouldn't have beamed down to the planet in the first place because they did tell him to stay away.
Yeah.
But it was Starfleet pushing, the diplomatic arm of Starfleet that was pushing.
Anon still can't see not at war as an option. And he argues that their way is better. It avoids the destruction and disease and long, painful deaths and suffering. And he asks Kirk if, like, 500 lives on the Enterprise are worth more than the millions that die in this war. And Anon's like, what kind of monster are you? And Kirk replies, a barbarian. You said so yourself. And I plan to prove it to you. So Anon drops a line to the Enterprise, and when Scotty answers, Kirk jumps towards the console and shouts, General Order 24 in 2 hours.
And then they pull him back just in time. And I didn't know at this point what that was, and I thought maybe he was bluffing, but
I did too.
It's real. It's General Orders is like destroy everything on the fucking planet, and that is a real thing.
General Order 24. An order to destroy all life on an alien planet, given only if commanding officer deems that a society poses a clear and present danger to the Federation. That is General Order 24.
I don't know that he was gonna use it, but I don't know.
So Anon explains to Scotty that they're holding the captain and all the other away team members as hostages, and they're going to start killing them if the Enterprise crew doesn't start beaming down, and gives them 30 minutes. And Kirk's like, well, it's too late. I already gave General Order 24, so in 2 hours, my ship will destroy this planet.
Fuck you.
He's like, guess I'll already be dead, though. Too bad.
Anon's like, I really don't believe he's going to do this, you know. Kirk's like, I didn't start this, but I'm going to finish it.
Kirk's like, we didn't start the fire.
But it's all the credits of the world to turn it.
Spock and Fox are moving through the hallways, knocking out guards with their disruptors along the way. And a lackey comes into the council chambers and says that Vendikar is calling, and they're big mad that they haven't met the death quota yet. And Anon is like, see, escalation is automatic. You can't stop it. And Kirk says, stop it. I'm counting on it. So Scotty calls down and tells the council that they've basically identified and targeted all the cities. And in an hour and 45 minutes, they're going to destroy every inhabited area of the planet. So turn over the hostages. Anon throws himself on the table like, what can I do? Somebody tell me.
He wasn't lying. He wasn't kidding. He's really going to do it.
One of the door guards moves toward him, like away from his post at the door for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand why, other than so that Kirk could trip him.
Yeah, Kirk overpowers him and takes his weapon. And just then Spock and the rest of the people arrive. And I guess the ambassador's attaché assistant was wounded in the hallway. So they come in. And Kirk goes ahead and hails the Enterprise and says, stand by to transport the party in 10 minutes or carry out General Order 24 on schedule. And he tells Scotty, cross your fingers.
And I told you the story about Scotty having a finger shut off during his wartime so that I could say the punchline, which is told him to cross his fingers. I'm sure he would enjoy that joke.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace. Kirk gets a great hero speech here. He says, death, destruction, disease, horror. That's what war is all about, Anon. That's what makes it a thing to be avoided. You've made it neat and painless. So neat and painless you had no reason to stop it. And you've had it for 500 years. Since it seems to be the only way I can save my crew and my ship, I'm going to end it for you. One way or another. Fox takes everyone out in the hallway except Sar, who he makes return their weapons and communicators. At this point, Spock has determined which computer to take out that'll take all of them out, and Kirk blasts it with his phaser. They rush out in the hallway as the computers explode, and this next exchange of dialogue is like really meaty, so I'm just going to read it.
Yeah, what Kirk is talking about Vendikar. Yeah,
Kirk says, I've given you back the horrors of war. The Vendicans now assume that you've broken your agreement and you'll be preparing to wage war with real weapons. They'll want to do the same. Only the next attack they launch will do a lot more than count up numbers in a computer. They'll destroy cities, devastate your planet. You, of course, will want to retaliate. If I were you, I'd start making bombs. Yes, Councilman, you have a real war on your hands now. You can either wage it with real weapons, or you might consider an alternative. Put an end to it. Make peace. And Anon says, there can be no peace. Don't you see? We've admitted it to ourselves. We're a killer species. It's instinctive. It's the same with you. Your General Order 24. And Kirk's like, yeah, okay, it's instinctive, but you can fight your instinct. Like, he says something about we have like 1,000,000 years of savagery and blood on our hands, but like, you can still make the choice to stop it. He says, we can admit we're killers and just decide, okay, but we're not going to kill today. And that's all it takes, knowing that we won't kill today. So he tries to, convince him, like, contact Vendikar. You can work your problems out.
Right. And then he's sure that Vendikar is just as horrified at the prospect of war, just like they are. Yep. But if they don't ever talk, how in the world will they ever know?
Yeah. Fox offers himself up to mediate between Vendikar and Eminiar as a diplomat. And he and Anon leave to dust off the old red bat phone that's a direct line between their planets. Kirk calls up Scotty and cancels General Order 24. And the button on the episode, back on the Enterprise, Argana 2 is our next destination. Fox reports that the negotiations are hopeful, and Kirk explains that he wasn't sure that his gamble was going to work, but either way, it would have ended the war, either through peace or through an actual attack that would have rendered them unable to keep fighting. He says he noted that the Amenians have a very neat and orderly society, so he'd bet the farm that they would do anything to avoid the messiness of war, anything up to and including peace negotiations. And the comical beat that they love to end on, Kirk's like, I had a feeling it would work, and Spock says, a feeling isn't much to go on. But sometimes, Kirk replies, that's all we humans have to go on. Spock says, Captain, you almost make me believe in luck. And Kirk says, Spock, you almost make me believe in miracles. And we're off to our next adventure.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'm happy the affair is over.
Me too.
A most annoying, emotional episode.
Yeah, but I learned something today.
When dreams become more important than reality, you give up travel, building, creating.
One jealous god, if all else makes a god.
By sparing your helpless enemy, who surely would have destroyed you, you demonstrated the advanced trait of mercy.
Frankly, I was rather dismayed by your use of the term half-breed. You must admit, it is an unsophisticated expression.
So I'll start us off with the whole just because we've always done it that way thing again. Like,
yeah,
once you're in that mindset, you've thrown away all of your critical thinking.
100%. You're not seeking any solutions. You're just falling in line and like repeating, rinse, repeat.
And we talked a little bit about like the whole prime directive issues a couple weeks ago, I think. In this episode, Kirk just like rides in on his white horse and starts making decisions for everyone. Like, yes, not a war is better than war, and ending that war is the best possible outcome. But are there better ways to bring about that outcome? Like, I felt like he just rode in and said, this is how it's going to be. And that made me think of like questions about our involvement in other countries. Right.
But that's exactly what we do. We feel like we can police the world and we have the right to. And so we're gonna.
Yeah.
We use the premise that, oh, well, eventually it will affect us. It will affect us downstream. So we need to do this now. I don't know.
Right. But like, it asks the question, like, who the fuck do we think we are to go in Star Trekistan or whatever, uninvited, and tell them how to run their shit? Like, and obviously there's a line that often gets crossed where we've had to get involved, like for the safety of the world kind of levels. Yeah. But if we're talking, I don't know, like regional issues, maybe where our primary interest is oil, just an example.
Mm-hmm. Of course. There's a monetary.
What we do so well. What I wish we had seen in this episode was less savior and more empathy. Like, Kirk made no effort to try to understand the motivations and beliefs of this society, much less attempt to respect those beliefs.
And nobody made an effort to contact Vendikar. Like if an ambassador was going to be here to talk about
Scotty,
peace,
beam me up and set a course to that other planet. We need to talk to those guys too. Right.
They're actively in a war. Talk to both sides. Yeah. But and without talking, they, one assumes what the other is thinking and they have no idea.
Yeah. Well, this is another one like the Gorn, was it the Gorn one where like, you could have just let them talk to each other and that would have been solving the problem, but instead we're going to do it the hard way for TV.
Right.
The episode made me think of freedom, like maybe a lack of freedom, like that these people had just marching themselves away to death, right? Because their leaders tell them to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not convinced that the Enterprise crew rolling up and giving new orders is the right way to approach that problem. They just ride in on the white horse.
It also like highlights how we as a society are so beholden to whatever our fucking leaders are doing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's like doctors and just regular people on that planet. And if they are unfortunate enough to be in the region where on the computer it got blown up, they've got to stop and choose to die for their civilization.
Yeah.
Because their leaders don't want to talk. So it all rolls downhill. We all suffer based on if our leaders aren't diplomatic or savvy enough. They need to work for us. We always get the shit end of this day, basically.
Another military connection that I had was like the way our military is advancing today. We have a lot of autonomous fighting, like drones, and there's other robotics that are being developed that take the human element out of the equation.
Yeah, so it makes it easier. Warfare is a lot easier.
Yeah. Like, that's just a machine doing the killing, and we might argue that they can go and, like, when we talk about drones, the argument is, well, they can go places, you know, it's not easy for people to, I don't know, a country that has lots of oil and caves. But, like, morally, it creates a scenario where the human doesn't necessarily have to carry the guilt of killing, because the machine did it. I didn't have to do it. I just had to push a button.
Right. It detaches us from the entire experience. I mean, there's one thing about being on the battlefield and holding a gun and being a few feet away and having to take someone's life as opposed to being 1,000 miles away in a different country. You never have to see their face.
Yeah.
And it's just a number.
I thought about like guided missiles in the same way. Like you can just sit on a ship in the ocean and shoot missiles at people. Like, yeah. So there's a bit of a warning, I guess, in this episode. Like, if you take the humanity out of war, as much as none of us like war, if you take the humanity out, then you really lose sight of what matters.
Yeah, but I think war is war, and no matter what kind it is, it's always not a good idea because people were dying anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like you said, when you're faced with someone on a battlefield, it's a lot different. And you immediately see what you're fighting for and a reason to stop.
Yeah. Like it's very different if you picture in your mind, like even colonial wars where we can shoot at each other with cannons and not even really have to see each other. But like, you know, musket to musket, bayonet to bayonet kind of fighting, that kind of war is not something that we as a culture really know anything about anymore because we sit back and fire missiles off of ships in the ocean or whatever. We have taken some of that, you know, even in the intervening years between like this episode and now, we have made a lot of those movements.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's still people on the ground dying for our country, dying for decisions that they have no control over. And they do so out of duty, kind of like these people marching to the disintegration chambers. But yeah.
Yeah. the whole thing about like the Enterprise rolling up and telling people how to run their country or their city or their planet or their whatever feels wrong to me, coming from this is the crew of the Enterprise. These are supposed to be our heroes that we look up to, and they're the ones doing the thing that we need to reflect on. And maybe at the time it wasn't intended to be reflected on that. Maybe, you know, right? They weren't thinking about that specifically when they made it, but when we look back at it now, it makes it interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to think that now, like Janeway would have handled it differently, or Picard even.
Yeah, and I think we get that. We just talked about it in Space Seed, like just dropping these guys off on a planet and telling them good luck. Like Janeway would have handled that differently.
Oh hell yeah, she would have.
So, did we have any named characters or important characters that we need to honor for their deaths this episode? I didn't think so.
No, I think the ambassador's assistant got injured, but I don't think he died. I'm not going to rip on the what is it? Eminians.
Correct.
There's just millions of them, and they were dying needlessly.
Yeah.
So no, nobody to report.
All right. Well, then we'd like to thank our patrons.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price. Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay off percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
Thank you, patrons.
Thank you, patrons. You are absolutely the best. And thank you so much again for supporting the show. If you're not a patron, please consider becoming one. You get early access to all of our episodes each week, and there's some merchandise at different levels. There's some patron exclusive episode that you won't want to miss where we talk about South Park. It's really funny. And so you can head on to patreon.com/humanisttrek. Pledge as little as $3 a month. It really does go a long way to help support the production of this show. Of course, we know not everybody has the money to give, and there are other ways that you can help us out too. You can share the episodes out with your friends, leave ratings and reviews wherever you listen to the show. All of that kind of stuff helps us get even more listeners, and we would appreciate it very much.
I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets.
Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you gotta say? What about my performance?
Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
All right, let's bring Becca back in for the exciting answer to last week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge. Last time on Humanist Trek, you asked us,
Karuman DePaul played a different role in previous episodes. Who was he?
I said basic white bridge guy.
And I said one of Khan's men.
You're both incorrect.
Oh, shit.
Fuck. Well, who was it then?
DePaul was played by Sean Kenny, who also appeared in the Menagerie episodes as the injured Captain Pike.
Oh, really? Huh.
I think I remember, because we know that he played the injured Captain Pike. It wasn't the original injured Captain Pike. And they put the shit on his face. So we never I never got a good look at him.
Huh.
So.
Okay. Interesting.
Good one.
All right. Next week, we'll be reviewing This Side of Paradise. The Enterprise visits a colony where floral spores bring peaceful contentment. You remember this episode? That's what I remember about this episode is the flowers that shoot the little needly things at Spock, and Spock goes mental.
No.
I remember
don't
that.
Remember.
That is all I remember about this episode.
No, don't remember a thing.
All right. What's our question for This Side of Paradise?
I'm going to get this one wrong.
Luckily, you're not going to find the answer to this question in the actual episode.
Oh, well, good. Okay.
Okay, good. Okay.
But you might be able to make an educated guess.
Okay.
All right. In a blooper, Leonard Nimoy flubs his line about the plants acting as a repository for thousands of spores. What word did he use instead of repository?
Suppository. It's got to be suppository.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I have no idea. It's a suppository for spores.
All right, that's our guess. We'll lock it in.
I have no idea.
You can lock.
I need a point. I need a point, so I'm
you are slipping behind. Yeah.
I know.
So if you want to play along, no cheating, no Googling, set a course for your nearest social media app and post your answer. Use the hashtag Starfleet Challenge and we'll pick our favorite. Next time on Humanist Trek, Season 1, Episode 25, This Side of Paradise.
Live long and prosper.
Kapla.
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcast. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.